So here we are again. I guess this is episode 3. We didn't plan
Yeah.
for this to go on for 3 episodes, did we? I think this has really gone on.
Yeah, well, I think we literally posted the last one as Combat Masteries were dropping. Like we were finishing editing and then Combat Masteries happened. It's like, oh, back to drawing
Yeah.
board, huh?
Yeah, I had that last video scheduled to upload, and literally about, I don't know, an hour before it was due to go live, I saw the Masteries and I was like, oh, for God's sake, like this just this changes everything, man. So anyway, here we are, post Masteries, and I think today we're going to go through. Don't get me wrong, our plans will change, but today I think the plan is for us to go through some of the choices we've got so far and kind of lock in a decision, like what our plan is at those relic tiers, with the region choices, and with the Masteries, right?
Yep. I mean, I feel really bad because I feel like I'm going to be like that person where like you ask them like, can you hang out on the weekend? And they're like, oh, I can like probably, yeah, I might be able to do next week. I feel like I'm going to be so indecisive, and it's just gonna, it's a hard pick this time.
Yeah, I feel like whatever we say today is great, but by the time this video's up, there might be a couple more reveals. Minds will have changed, but I feel like what we've both got together so far both sound like fun builds. So
yeah,
I
I'm
guess
really
that's what we're
excited.
doing.
I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about.
All right. I mean, if we're jumping straight in, I guess we start where it began with the reveals, tier 1 relics. I think we both already know what we've picked for this from our previous chats, but do you want to run me through it? Because you're a jacker through and through, right?
I think I am. I think I am a jacker this time. I just think the axe is really good, and I don't want to spend time farming tree spirits in the Enchanted Valley. That's not for me this time around. I want to grab my like crystal axe or whatever and just start chopping, chop.
Yeah. Saying that though, right? We just got the task list, didn't we? And there was a couple tasks that I guess you could argue take you to the Enchanted Valley by default. You know, getting a rune axe, killing 5 rabbits or whatever it was. So you're going to end up there one way or another. But at least you won't have to camp the tree spirits, you know.
Wait, I just totally realized I actually don't think I'm going axe. I just completely 180 so hard. Okay, wait a minute. I feel so bad. I've already changed, but because I just realized that I added a new region and now it changes it because I don't think there's value anymore.
The plot,
which I guess we'll get into, but I think I'm probably going Animal Wrangler then instead, based on my regions now. I think Animal Wrangler is the best one for me. Yeah,
joining the gang.
That's good. Listen, it's good.
So like, we don't have to get into like region specifics right now, but what was the main region change that made you want to pick Wrangler now?
So there's actually 2 big things. Well, I guess can I just say my regions now? Is that okay? Or I can say one of them, right? Basically, I think I'm going to be going Zaya now, and I realize that if I'm going to be doing a lot of Wintertodt anyways, I don't know how much I care about the axe as much. Plus, you can buy your axes and stuff. The other big one for me is the Stardust change. Now that you get like way more of it, I feel like I'm just going to do a lot of Stardust. So I don't know if I really want the power miner as much anymore. And then I think like at the end of the day, like the fishing one is just really good. The hunter one is really good. I think I've been kind of thinking about like early game hunter rushes to try to get ahead early, try to hit chins like way faster than people are at them. Yeah, I don't know. I just think Animal Wrangler is good. Fishing's good. Yeah. Food is good.
Food is good. You're right. I tell you what, like, I actually had a moment of weakness myself. I have been a Wrangler from the get-go. But I was wondering, like, between picking, and we will get onto builds in a bit, but between a melee and a range build, I think if I was dead set on going range, I think there's a really good argument for power miner. You know, not having to worry too much about ammunition earlier on by just mining, getting your bars, smithing them into ammo early is going to give you a great head start as a range build. But I am with you. I'm a Wrangler. This is the tier 1 relic I want. And for the same reasons, I don't even fully feel confident that my regions benefit from this, because I don't think I'm picking a region with red chins. But I just love the hunter element. We spoke about it just before this call that Implings have been buffed slightly, or at least their spawn rates, things like that. And this is also going to be, really good for that. Impling jars no longer breaking. Um, I know hunter traps will never fail. Do you know if that also means for catching an impling that you have the level for?
I
Sorry to put
think
you on
it
the spot if you don't know that.
no, I think it does work for implings because I
Yeah.
believe that's how it worked last year, that you would
Mm.
always catch implings. I remember playing around with Trickster, and I think that's how it worked. So if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
wouldn't be
I
the
took
first time.
Trickster and yeah, no. I mean, I think most things I've said by now have been either debunked or, you know, wound up in the bin. So yeah, that's another big reason why I think this animal wrangler hunter element anyway is really, really good. So we're both wranglers, right?
Yeah, I think the only thing that would kind of change my mind right now is depending on what Golden God is up against, because I think Golden God is that construction fix for me right now. And if it ends up being the case that there is just something crazy against that, then maybe I will end up going back to the axe just for logs and stuff, because I've always said that that's a pretty big benefit of them.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that is pretty decent. Um, to be honest, with construction, I've not even really given that skill much thought because I'm pretty confident I'm picking at least Fremi or Vala. But I guess you're going to need money at some point. You're going to need a lot of it if you want to max out those points.
Yep. But I mean, there's good options, honestly. And
Mm.
I think they recently, I don't know if you saw this, but recently I believe they said that if you have Fremenic, you can actually NPC contact the Mahogany Homes person without having Escarnia, which
Oh,
means you could do like just Varrock or something like that, which is like crazy. I don't know. I
oh,
don't even know how
really?
that's, yeah, I don't even know how it's possible, but apparently you can like do Mahogany Homes because it's on the general one.
So does
I don't
that
know.
mean? So does that mean if you don't pick Fremi and you go for the Grimoire relic, you don't need Fremi or Asgarnia, and you can still do all of that
So
potentially?
apparently that has not been confirmed yet. They said
Ah,
that they don't know if the grimoire gives you access to mahogany homes. But yeah,
right.
it's weird.
But
Little
that
weird
would be
thing.
a really cool way around construction training for those regions that do kind of struggle with it, for sure.
Yep.
I guess we'll put a pin in that because I don't want to say anything that gets me in hot water for like the, I don't know, 100th time this league. I'm not sure.
Basically Fremenic good for construction, that's all I'll say. It's good for construction.
Yeah. 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 Stonemason stonks up. Okay, so tier one relic pretty solved by now, and I guess we'll get into more detail when we get into our region choices and kind of like why we've picked those.
Yep.
But let's move on. So, what was the next thing we were going to talk about? Was it teleport relics?
Yeah, I think teleport
What
relics because
choice we're
we're
going for
expecting
here?
that pretty early, right?
Yeah, and I think we're also both pretty of the same mind here, unless you've changed. I am locked into Clue, the Cluey one. You
Yep.
the same?
A big clue compass for me. It just
Clue
feels
compass.
so good. Like feels really crazy good. I saw some of the tasks already. There's a lot of clues.
Yeah.
I'm not doing clues without clue compass. That's what I'm gonna say. So
Yeah. There's a lot of so with that task list, we've already seen there's a lot of clue related tasks. And we spoke about this very briefly last time, but I've since seen a lot of other people talking about it. If you're picking Fremi and your plan is to do DKs this league, obviously it would be if you're picking Fremi, but there is that elite clue step that takes you right outside the DKs. And sure, it might be a bit of a pain to hunt for that particular clue step, but if you get it, you've banked yourself like one of the most valuable teleport locations. And there are so many others like that, right? That have really good spots.
I think it's also like one of those things where I think you don't like necessarily hunt for it, but when you get it, you just put a
Yeah.
pause to clues and you're like, all right, this thing is sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be like an absolute gamer and start juggling. Clues are stackable, which means you get some
Mm.
really weird stuff like juggling clues if you really wanted to. I'm not gonna do that, but if I do
Yeah.
hit like one of those important ones, I'm probably just gonna sit on there, and then like when I'm done with that, I'll go back and just finish up all my
Yeah.
clues. So
I'm waiting to see a screenshot of the guy who's managed to crash his PC from like having 5,000 clues on the floor and they've all got those loot beams and it's just like absolutely ruined it and he can't see anything on his screen. Someone's going to do it. Someone's going to juggle loads of clues. And I think that quality of life improvement that, Jagex made this year of allowing clues to stay on the floor for so long is going to be great even in the leagues. So,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that we got stackable clues because I think it really makes Clue Compass like crazy good. I thought that it would be the case where they're not stackable, so teleporting
Okay.
to your clue is not that good because like
Mm,
I mean, basically means you have to do it right away.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, I'd rather have stackable because it's just better for the game, and I'm glad that they make changes like that. That it's just better for everybody. So,
Yeah.
yeah, big
Yeah,
fan.
100%. So I guess that makes that decision a bit easy for us. I mean, if we can just really quickly touch on the other two, I don't think they're bad by any means. And if I had to pick one of the other ones, it would probably be Fairy's Flight, purely because those tool leprechauns and those farming locations, depending on your regions, of course, they can be a bit of a pain to go out of your way to get to. And you're going to need to do a lot of farm in this league. You know, unless you're planning on picking one of the farming related relics, Fairy's Flight could be really good. So I guess you'll need to weigh that up in your decision. You know, if you're watching this and you're not thinking of picking Overgrown or what's the utility relic that recently came out?
Friendly Forager, I think is the one.
Yeah, Friendly
Yeah.
Forager. If you're not picking either of those two, and you need to do manual farming, then yeah, Fairy's Flight has a good use, right?
Yeah, and I think like it will get you your farm runs done pretty fast. It's already pretty decent teleports. Like they're not bad teleports.
Yeah.
I think manual farm runs with Fairy's Flight are going to feel like pretty close to a farming relic because you're getting that default 5 times. That's another thing I guess we can quickly touch on is we did also hear about like all the relic passives. So this is actually such a cool. I feel like this is such a like great day to do this discussion. There's
Yeah.
so much like kind of like foundational information that came out in the last couple of days that really just makes this a really cool convo. So
Yeah, 100%. I we'll get on to that because I think
mhm.
when we talk about regions, those relic passives and everything we got there, if anything, I think they actually influence your decision on like, right, now I know when I'm getting my XP multipliers, I can now pick that region sooner. But we'll get on to that.
Yep.
Cool. So teleport regions done. You know, are we just gonna have the same choices throughout
No,
this whole
no,
thing?
because I think I disagree with you on this next one for sure.
Okay, so talk us through it. What's the next one?
It's our great clash, Total Recall versus Banker's Note,
Wait,
right?
what do you mean you're gonna disagree with me on this one? What are you going for?
Well, I think I'm going for Total Recall, so unless you've changed your mind.
No, I haven't. Go
Yep.
on, go on then.
Well, okay, I want to say first off, I think it's pretty funny that they like featured me as the Banker's Note guy, and I've been like vehemently against Banker's Note since. I've been telling everybody how much I don't want to like. I don't know. I just think Total Recall is so cool. Like the way that I kind of have been saying it is that I think Banker's Note is just the better relic for like vast majority of people, and you should probably take it. However, for me, just because I've already done the Inferno and the Colosseum on the main game, I don't think I need the benefit of Banker's Note as much. Things like pest control have been the experience from there no longer gets you any like you don't get experience from there anymore. So I'm not going to be able to zero time clutching and herblore and crafting as much. And
Mhm.
listen, I'm just not going to be unnoting logs as I walk from quest to quest or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's not for me. I think Total Recall is just going to be a lot of fun to use, and I'm just excited to use it. Like it's like a fun little toy. I want to play with it.
Yeah. I saw this, you know, it's like a bit of a meme on Reddit, but like someone drawing a graph where it was like banker's note here at the beginning,
Hmm.
total recall in the middle, and then back to banker's note. But actually, I would argue that it's the complete opposite way round, and that total recall has probably the most insane use in the early to mid game. And I mentioned it on our last chat, but I genuinely think where banker's note takes the cake on this one is for raids. Like if you're not confident in raids or Inferno, like you've just said, banker's note is the obvious choice. You know,
Yeah,
you're not going to die. But I think now we've seen masteries and now we've seen the echo items. There's a lot within all of that that's actually just going to boost your survivability anyway. So I can get why you've changed your mind on this. I haven't, but I can get why you have. And
I
I
think
think,
also. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go for it.
So I think like a big thing for me is I also like I love PVM. That's something I really like want to do. And I kind
Yeah.
of feel like coming into a brand new boss, like Banker's Note was fun for me doing bosses that I've never done before and
Mm.
choosing them with Banker's Note. I
Yeah.
feel like if I have Banker's Note and I go to my first Echo boss and I know that I can just eat sharks through it, it's gonna kind of like kill some of that excitement for me. I'm not saying that for everybody. Like I'm not I just I don't know. I kind
I
of
know where you're
wonder
coming from.
sometimes if I'm entering like with it's almost like imagine if they weren't in instances and you could just spam total recall to full heal, right? It would be like, okay, well, what's the point of killing this boss, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Baker's Note is definitely harder than that. You do have to manage your stuff, and like you can still get one shot by mechanics. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying Baker's Note's a cheat code. Just for me, like that fresh experience, completely blind, hitting up a boss with like my stream laughing at me. That's what I want to see. Like that's
Yeah.
what I want to do.
Yeah. No, you're entering your like elitist PVM era. Just
I
admit it.
am. I
That's
am.
what's
Oh,
happening.
also, did you know that Total Recall, it doesn't lose your save state when you die? So if you die, you just Total Recall back and just send
That's
it
cool.
like yeah, it's really
Yeah.
awesome. I'm so
That's
excited
cool.
about that.
One thing that I think I was a bit disappointed about with Total Recall though is things like the Sunlight Spear stacks, they disappear.
Really
Um,
weird.
yeah, so I think it's in the FAQ now, but it says that things like the Sunlight Spear stacks and the Soul Reaper Axe stacks, they won't
Mm.
be saved. And I mentioned it on the last video as like a bit of speculation, but this has since been debunked as well. If you boost your stats above uh their current, that doesn't save either, is that right?
I think that's where yeah, I think that's where people are at right now. I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure, but I'm like 99% sure that it's just your spec, your prayer, and your health. Even
Yeah.
if your health is boosted, I guess
Yeah.
you could your prayer could be boosted if you want to like ancient mace and then like save your total recall. Like you could do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, mainly I don't think you can like boost your stats. You're not gonna have like infinitely super combat essentially.
Yeah. So I get why you've changed your mind. I was definitely in a bit of a middle ground about it not long after it released, but I'm still a banker's note stan. And I think that I do think you're right. It takes away from the experience, at least for people who want to have a challenge for themselves. I don't think it takes away from any other experience, but I think if part of what you enjoy is failing at something, getting better, and then doing it on your own back, Total Recall is going to allow you to do that without cheesing the boss. So I get that. I just want Banker's Note because I think that some of the route I'm going down is going to put me in a position where I need those supplies earlier in some PVM situations. Like I think I'm going to be rushing content quicker than I'm ready for. And that's where I think Banker's Note does help you get over that. You know, you could go into a boss with gear that absolutely should not be able to take down a boss, but you'll do it because you've got Banker's Note. So that's where I'm weighing in on that
And
choice
that's
right
and
now.
by the way, that's fun too. I had a lot of
Yeah,
fun doing Inferno with like a trident or something, and it
yeah,
was literally just because I think I sat through and I ate 200 sharks and just brute force it.
yeah,
Like that is fun too.
yeah,
So I'm not saying that like oh if you take Banker's Note it's because like you know you're like bad. Especially
yeah.
because Zuck is after all like the final echo or combat mastery task now too.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm,
yeah, take Banker's Note, get through it, have fun. Triple Jads and Zuck can't Banker's Note through that, it's still going to be hard. But
mhm.
I think you're going to be able to get through the stressful and the more tedious part of
Yeah.
Inferno a lot faster. So
Oh yeah, I tend to find that actually the waves leading up to Jads and Zuck are actually harder than that end bit. The end bit, don't get me wrong, the nerves at the end bit always go off the charts, but I genuinely feel like solving waves, for me anyway, is my weaker point for the Inferno.
well,
I
also
don't mind Jad.
because you're nervous because if you die, you have to go back and do the waves all over again. You know, it's
Yeah.
like oh god, if you could just run
Yeah.
Zuck over and over, it would be so different. Like I think people
Oh, for
would
sure.
come to love it. So
Yeah. So that's where we are. Okay, so different choice there. That's interesting. Um, I'd be interested to see actually. One thing I really wanna I wish someone would keep a track of is people who take Total Recall, are they progressing through kind of the mid game tasks quicker? Because I do think it is a stronger early to mid game relic. I don't know what tier we're going to get it yet, but I think it's going to help people progress faster than Banker's Note is. That's just my opinion.
yeah, but I think we kind of talked about this last time where I feel like this tier is going to end up being later than people expect. I don't see this being like a tier 3 thing just
Yeah.
because like I mean just like I mean I said how Banker's Note kind of ruins some PVM. Not like ruins, but like Total Recall would kind of ruin a lot of the early game too if I just have infinite
Yeah.
health for Slayer. Like I don't know how I'm going to feel about that if we get it like 2 hours into the league and I just have like a perma cheat code
Yeah.
button in my
Yeah.
inventory. I'm hoping
No, I
this is
agree.
something I don't get for like a week.
Yeah, like tier 5, I think we said last time, right?
Yeah, something like that. Tier 5, tier 6.
Yeah, that'd be ideal. Okay, so Total Recall versus Banker's Note. Done.
Hmm.
The next one, what are we covering next? I think we're skipping some of the
Utility.
other tiers. So, like, maybe I should just quickly mention that we're not covering Golden God or Overgrown because those tiers aren't fully fleshed out yet. We don't know what they're up against. And just watch it. We'll put this video up and we'll have full disclosure at that point of what it's up against.
Oh
But
man,
anyway,
that the Golden God tier comes out, that would be so awful. After
it-
saying that, like so
I
much
know.
of my plans determine on that.
Oh, everything will change.
Yeah.
Always does. Always does. Always will. So, what's next?
Utility relics, pretty new, right? Only like a couple days ago.
Yeah, these ones were really exciting. Honestly, when these went up, I just give praise to the old school team now. I feel like the relics this year are so good, all of them. I genuinely feel like the quality of them and the difficulty to choose one over the other shows how well they've done at balancing them.
Yeah, I love it. I think they brought back flavors of old relics while still making them feel pretty new. They still kind of solve the same problem, but
Yeah.
man, I don't know. I think we're so lucky that they don't just reuse the same exact set year after year after year after year with like two changes. Like they really go
Oh
out of
yeah,
their ways to break it up.
for sure. Having said that, and I've just been nice to them, so now I can be mean. What did they do to Trickster? Why did they butcher Trickster? I'm so sad. I mean, I love these relics. I think they're all great. But man, Trickster was, I still stand by it, I think, being my favorite relic in Leagues 4, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows just how strong it was that they had to like split it in half, and it's still not even like it's not even as good as Trickster, because you had the other parts like the Hunter and the fire making part as well.
Yeah.
But they have added new bonuses too, and those added bonuses are like pretty substantial, I would say.
Yeah. Do you wanna go through them quickly, or should we just talk about which one we are leaning towards?
Um, I mean, we could talk about, I guess, them real fast. I think the big thing was auto thieving stalls, and you also thieve in like a 5x5 area now, which is like
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
It's
Um,
crazy. For
or sorry, it's
pickpocketing, I think
11
it's
by 11.
crazy. Yeah, 11 by 11. For pickpocketing, I think it's crazy. For stalls, I'm actually a little bit disappointed that you can get griefed.
Yeah,
Someone's going to do it. So if someone who doesn't pick dodgy deals comes up and thieves a stall that you're perma thieving from, it will just stop it for everybody.
Yeah, the only thing about that is that the thieving stalls don't give you noted stuff. So it's not like I'll be AFK for like 10 minutes doing it. At worst, okay, I'll have to wait a minute and stuff like that. And like, if this guy really wants to like world hop and chase me to every single like gems, like, I
It's
don't
going
know.
to
I
be
feel
me.
like that's, yeah, like people will do it, but I don't think it's going to be like that crazy level of griefing. We haven't seen it in like the wildy either. And everybody says that like, oh, you're going to get griefed in the wildy nonstop. And I mean, that's just not happened as much either.
Yeah,
Maybe
someone
this
in
year though.
my someone who I was speaking to in my Discord was saying like, "Oh, just imagine being one of the first people to get through a fire cape and go into the gem stall in Moral Wreck and just AFK thieving from the gem store there. You've got your unlimited gems. You don't need Asgarnia for ice gloves, and you've got like a one in whatever chance it is for an Onyx. So you just sit there AFK, chisel your gems, drop them, do whatever you're gonna do, and just get a passive Onyx that way. That seemed really cool until I realized you could be griefed, which I thought was a bit of a shame. But I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I almost wonder. Like, I feel like it must be like almost like a technical limitation. I hate to say that, but yeah, it feels kind of weird.
Mm.
There's also the ore shop as well, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
So you
there's
can get
quite a
up to
few
rune
stores
ore.
actually that have a lot of value. And I think one that people aren't seeing so much of, or at least I haven't seen being spoke about, is all of the stores in Fremi in I'm gonna forget the name of the place, but where the blast furnace is.
Yeah,
There's
Keldagrim.
Yeah, in Keldagrim, there's all of those stores around there, and I think that some of them are amazing for crafting, some of them are amazing for smithing. Another one is in I can't remember if you can steal from all of them, but the ones in Varlamore in Camtarum as well. There's a few stores there that look pretty cool. I think anyway. I might be wrong on that. Anyway, I think that this is a really cool relic, but there are still the other two. So I'll just quickly mention the agility one because I think this is the one I'm picking if I
Mhm.
had to. So Corner Cut is the agility relic, and you're going to get the Sage's Greaves from Leagues 4, passive agility XP while you run around the game. getting stacks of GP whenever you get a mark of grace, agility laps counting for 2 instead of 1. Also doubling the quantity of any rewards from agility, so like Sepulchre tickets, Brimhaven tickets, agility tops if you're picking the desert. I think all of those features are really cool. If I'm honest, the only reason I'm leaning towards this one is because I hate agility, and I don't want to run a single lap if I don't have to. So that's the only reason I'm leaning towards this one. What do you
Yeah.
think of the corner cutter?
I think corner cutter is. I mean, it solves agility, right? Like, what
Yeah,
more could you want from it? Um, Yeah, I think one of the really cool things that it actually has a benefit now to agility courses, because that was one of the worst things was you have the agility, like
yeah,
your agility is fine, but then you still have to do like 100 laps.
yeah,
I think this alone is pretty substantial. I'm very curious to see the full task list because I think that they will add more of these like complete 100 laps of the arty course, complete 100 laps
yeah,
of the relica course.
yeah. Region specific ones, absolutely,
Mhm.
they will. Yeah, so it's really
Oh,
good stuff.
and I think the other thing, this is also kind of what I'm curious about is marks of grace are now boosted by the minigame multiplier and they spawn with 10,000 coins. Now, I do not know how this works, but let's assume you have 8 times like let's say you have 8 times minigame multiplier. Does that mean you get 8 marks of grace and 80,000 coins? Because wouldn't that be like kind of nuts?
Yeah, you've got me thinking now.
Yeah, like I was like, wait, no, like that it kind of like makes sense in my head, but I'm also like, wait, then this is
Wow,
like
they
kind of
do.
nuts.
They do. Marks of Grace, Hallowed Marks, Brimhaven vouchers, and Stardust now benefit from the minigame multiplier. So I'm guessing that's quantity. It's not going to be frequency, is it?
I think it
Because
must be
that's the other thing,
quantity.
isn't it? It's frequency versus quantity, and I don't think we know which one it is yet.
Yeah, I mean, either way, you'd still get more, right? Like, I
Yeah,
guess
exactly.
it would be a little bit more annoying to pick up like literally one every single lap just spawning. I'd rather get just
Yeah.
like 8 of them drop in a little
Oh, for
nice little
sure.
stack. Yeah.
That'd be lovely. That'd be so nice. I mean, it'd be a bit of a pain to have to click 8 times for on your Marks of Grace, but it's a small thing. It's a small thing. It's a first world problem.
Yep.
Um, so there is one more. Do you want to talk us through that and then tell us which one of these utility relics you're going for?
Yeah, friendly forager. So this is the kind of herblore relic, and essentially every time you gather a resource from the gathering skills, woodcutting, fishing, mining, hunting, you'll get a random grimy herb in like a herb sack. Basically, you get an herb sack for free. And the cool thing about this is that um, you can actually kind of force spawn a certain herb that you want. So let's say you fill up your herb sack, and the only thing that you don't have in there is like ranars and snapdragons. Every 9, I think it's every 9 ticks, the game will try to add you. Like that's a cooldown of it basically, but it'll try to add one to your sack, and you can force spawn ranars and snapdragons, and then once you've filled it back up, you just withdraw them to your bank and keep going. So you're not just getting like a ton of really bad ones. On top of that, I mean it's like 600 herbs an hour. Like your herbler's gonna be just fine. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it saves is this the one that saves secondaries or am I going crazy?
yes, 90%.
Yeah, so this one's saving secondaries as well, because I know one of the first things that came to my mind before I'd even finished watching the reveal teaser was all these herbs sound amazing, but the secondaries I can't be bothered with. But a 90% chance to not consume secondaries is so good with this. Like this
Hmm.
solves herb lore if your regions are terrible for it. I think it's great for that. And not to mention, this synergizes just perfectly with all of the tier one relics. I would argue that mining is probably the least AFK one, but even then, this synergizes so well with all of them. You're going to be farming herbs.
Yeah, I like that you have kind of two options now of like farming and herbler. Like you can either go for overgrown or you can go with friendly forager. Or I mean, even fairy's flight kind of helps out with farmlands. There's a couple of like weird ways of solving that
Yeah.
problem. And this is just by far, I mean, like, I think everybody likes to assume like, oh, I'm just gonna walk in day 3 with like 200 prayer potions. Like, no, it is hard to get that like
Yeah.
initial stack going. Like, first fight caves, it's not easy to like build up your stack of prayer potions. I mean, region dependent, of course, but
Yeah. Um, what tier do you think this is coming in at, by the way? Do
oh,
you think this is an early one?
I think these are actually gonna be tier 2. That's my guess. I
You're
think
going by
teleport
crack theory, huh?
relics. No, no, no. It's because I think things like the agility one. are and the thieving one, I think they're like so good early on that I think we'll get this tier 2, and I think we'll get teleport relics tier 3. That's kind of my guess right now. I'd rather have
and
these
honestly, I
early.
like that because I think the teleport relics much more powerful this year,
Yeah.
all round. So that makes sense to me.
Mhm. I guess I'll talk
Um,
about mine, and that's
yeah, go on. What are
right
you
now.
picking?
I'm leaning pretty hard towards dodgy deals. Um,
Yeah,
I I feel like I can do my farm runs, and I'm still thinking about like there's still a lot of options I think for the farming, but I can do them. Dodgy deals just is really good. Like it's very strong. AFK pickpocketing is really really nice. Even if you don't have the ice gloves, but I mean I'm probably gonna go Fremnick, so like I'll probably have the ice gloves, so that's taken care of basically. Um, Even outside of that, now you got all those stalls that are just really, really strong. You don't even have to like worry about things. Also, probably the biggest thing is the underwater section of Fossil Island is currently rumored to be like a very, very high agility experience per hour as well. So this actually solves agility because you're like it's like the mermaid section, and the chests have like they're balanced around like a 1 in 8 chance, but if you have a 100% chance you're getting 8 times, and so you'll actually be getting like I think somebody said like over 2 mil agility an hour or something, which is like pretty good. Yeah, I mean that's pretty good.
and do you get? Is that the one that you get hybrid XP on?
I think so. I think you get thieving and agility from it, but I mean the
Yeah,
thieving doesn't really matter because this relic is already so good. But
yeah. I mean, that's still amazing. I think the only thing there is that that piece of content is not the most fun, and the oxygen levels aren't going to change. So you're underwater, aren't you? And you have to like go around, do all of that. Do we know? Can you get a fishbowl helmet
I
with
don't
just
think
starting regions, or do you need Asgarnia?
so. You don't need the fishbowl. However, you do need, or you don't need, but you would very much want to get flippers from
Yeah,
Ascarnia, or else
yeah.
you're going to be walking around in the water
It's
like a
slow.
slug. I've never done
Yeah.
it, so I'm excited about it. Like in my mind, I feel like I'm going to do it for 5 minutes and hate it, but I'm being optimistic right now.
It's better than drift net fishing. So I've done them both before, but so briefly because I didn't enjoy them in the main game. Um, but that's really cool that this works for that, and it does go to some other really cool uses in other regions outside of Misthalin. So I mean, let's just stay on Misthalin for a second because there is a task to thief from the Dark Chest, isn't there? So you're going to be going to the Isle of Souls. You can do the Isle of Souls chest. You can get a dark key, open the dark key, dark chest. In Varlamore, there's the new chests in Aldurin, which have a chance to fail, but with dodgy deals, they don't. This also works in Zaya with the stone chests, which actually, with this relic, is a much earlier and easier way to get a Xerix talisman to teleport you around Zaya. So I think there's some really, really good uses for this relic. I can totally see why you would pick it. I think the strongest two probably are the herb one and dodgy deals. Like I genuinely think the agility one is the weakest, but I'm just picking it because I hate laps.
I think
That's
we'll
it.
see because if there's a task list and it has a good amount of those agility laps, like I think just getting it done twice as fast is going to be such a massive benefit. And honestly, with your agility, like if your agility level is just that flying, you might even not even bother with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. They did say that they were removing some tasks, right? Like the 2000 monkey laps. But I feel like agility is just like it's a solved skill in leagues. You know, you've got that unlimited run energy. Shortcuts are okay, but relics bypass a lot of shortcuts anyway, teleport relics. So it does feel like a bit of a wasted skill, and the only reason you're doing it is for rewards associated with agility minigames or for tasks, and that's it. So it does feel like the weakest of the three, but I know where you're coming from. I get it.
Yep. I mean, as far as like my brain just not enjoying it, I think agility is definitely a pretty good pick there. So
Yeah, that's my reason for it, and I think that's a fair enough reason if
I think
anyone
it's a
is
good.
also thinking of doing it. Yeah. So where are we now? I think we've covered the main relic choices, and now I think the main thing we wanted to talk about today was what regions we're picking and the new combat masteries.
Yep.
So we both came into this call with kind of a choice of a build, and these aren't probably going to be a final decision because there's still so much that could change. Or I feel like there's just that many good region combinations this league that my mind is changing every day. It probably will again. But just so that we weren't theory crafting, 10 different builds on this call, we've both got some regions and a build to go through. Do you want to go through yours first?
Yeah, so my current plan right now that I'm leaning really heavily towards, is pretty unconventional. So hear me out. But I'm currently planning on going Zaya, Asgarnia, and Fremenic. Do we want to do combat masteries as well?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, throw it
okay.
in.
And the whole premise of this is that I want to start off going 5 melee, then like to basically get my melee going early. Then I'm gonna try to farm Echo Hysporia because I think it's one of the earliest bosses you can get to. I'm gonna
Okay.
try to get the Salamander, and that's gonna take it from a 5 tick to a 2 tick, like ranged melee weapon. I
Yeah,
think since our first call, I talked about how much I want a ranged melee weapon,
yeah.
and I don't think I can pass up on it. And the cool part is that after I do that, I'll then swap to 5 mage basically as like my back half, and then I'll basically be balanced between. I'll be like a battle mage between having like a scythe and a shadow once I start doing like Chambers of Zarek and all that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
That's
like a
really cool,
very
actually.
hybrid setup where I have different options and stuff. Pairs well with Ascarnia for Void. Pairs well with Fremenic for the all the jewelry you're getting, which is affecting both styles. And then Zaya, I mean, I think Chambers of Zarek is just gonna like feel pretty chill when I just have like a multi tool
You've
that
got all
just
three
does it all
styles,
for me.
yeah.
Yep.
You've got all three styles, and I love that because I think I said in our last call, Nature's Reprisal is my favorite fun looking weapon. 505 is really cool as well. I've seen a lot of 505 builds, so Battle Mage sounds really good. Zaya's going to give you all the magic gear you need. Asgarnia gives you melee and ranged. You've still got the option of switching to a range for a quick ZCB spec there as well. So
Well, I don't
that
even
sounds
need
really
to.
cool.
I got the dog sword. I don't even need to
Oh
switch
yeah, of
ranged.
course
Yeah,
you
I'll just
have.
dog sword
You got the
melee. Like
Chad
that's
sword.
yeah, that's gonna be sweet.
Damn. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
I'm running Total Recall, so I mean, like it's so funny because I think I said I would not do these 3 regions. I was so sure I wouldn't do them, and now I'm like, I'm just locked in. But like God Wars with Total Recall and the dog sword, I feel like I'm actually gonna just enjoy it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna actually have fun with it for a third time.
Yeah, and with your other kind of relics that you've spoke about as well, I feel like the picture is coming together with those. So Wrangler, like you say, is probably better considering that you're going Zaya. You'll be doing Wintertod. But were there any other kind of like standout benefits for the relics you've chosen and the regions that you're going with?
Um, I feel like for the most part, I realized that Zaya, Skarnia, and Fremenic feel like they just have a lot of really good options. The one that I'm really
Yeah.
looking at right now is whether or not I end up going Golden God to take advantage of the Fremenic Stonemason, and
Mm,
that's a big like
that's a big
what
if,
if?
isn't it?
Yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
if for me right now. Also, I'm still not 100% sure on Animal Wrangler just because the mining thing is really good in Ascarnia, and I might just want to like just start blasting my mining early. Maybe that's just how I get my gold, anyways.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't know. But like Stardust just got buffed too. Also, my
Yeah.
phone's going off. Let me quickly turn that off.
Was that your like regular alarm?
That's my league's reveal alarm. Yeah, I
We're
wake
coming
up
up
at
to the
7
time, to be
a.m.
fair. We're not too far off.
Yep.
Um, so there was another question I had for you, and that was around mastery. So you're going to go 505, and we kind of know what regions you're going to go for and the relics you're going to go for. But what are you thinking when it comes to going for early mastery points or going for early relic tiers? Because now we know what the XP multipliers are, and we're going to get huge XP buffs as early as tier 3. There's a bit of a balancing act, isn't there? Do you go tier 3 then rush combat masteries? What's your idea there?
It's so hard because we just never seen it played out like this before, where you
Yeah.
can just start doing combat super fast. Like I think
Yeah.
if man, it feels weird to say this, but tier 4 gives you 5 times drop rate on your relics, which is like there's a good chance I just hit tier 4 and I just stop doing tasks. I just fight bosses until I get bored of them. I'm not even joking. It's just that's such a weird way of playing leagues, and I'm
Yeah.
so excited for that change. I personally think that I'm still going to focus a lot on getting my tasks done, mainly because I think I need all 3 regions, like, desperately for this build. It's probably, like, not I think a lot of other builds are pretty flexible, and this one's I think it's pretty tight. You kinda need all 3 regions. Maybe I drop one for Mauritania, but, like, Void plus Hispori plus the Fremnik jewelry. I don't really have a lot of, like, wiggle room there, so I think I
Yeah.
need all
I think
3 regions. Yeah.
at the very least, you're gonna want Zaya and Asgarnia pretty quick, aren't you?
Yeah. Mhm.
So that makes sense. But yeah, no, I think that's really cool, and I don't know how many people have already started thinking about this, but like because they've moved combat for the most part out of relic progression, you can do that now. I think there's less of an emphasis on let's just rush through every single tier as quickly as possible. I can't play the game until I unlock all 8 relic tiers. That is gone as far as I'm concerned anyway, and I'm sure there will be people that still want to rush all their tiers. But I think as far as progression goes, once you've unlocked a good amount of XP and drop rate multiplier, you can play the game however you want, obviously, but now there's just so much more freedom to do so without feeling like you're missing out on a really big combat relic or a really big XP or drop rate multiplier because they've kind of moved it forward, haven't they? And I think that
Yeah,
makes it
it's
so much more enjoyable for like the people who don't have much time to play day on day. So I think that's great.
Yeah, a lot of people were, like, laughing at me about this, but I stand by it that I think that Kandarin is kind of a really cool route you can take now. If Listen, just
Oh,
hear me out, okay? Listen to this, okay? Tier 3 gives you it doubles your combat experience. So now you're sitting at 16 times experience, right? You go do waterfall quests and you do fight arena and you have 64 attack, 57
yeah.
strength. You grab a dragon scimitar from Kandarin and you just go do like Scurious or whatever. Like get your prayer up somehow. It doesn't really matter, right? You have 16 times prayer experience too. And then like you're doing Scurious way faster than everybody. You can go farm your zombie axe before anybody's there yet because that place is going to be crowded day 1, right?
Hmm.
Like that to me sounds kind of fun because I feel like you're like and also combat level scales the best off melee too. So
Yeah.
you're going to be pushing that 100 combat level a lot faster than a lot of people. And I was kind of
Mm.
thinking almost like just completely changing my build and just going for a super fast Kandarin rush so I can do like Echo Soul like day 2 or something. It's just some wild stuff like that. I don't know. I don't even know if
Yeah.
it's possible, but it's just like it's something cool to think about and
No, it
yeah.
looks good. I was literally just as you were talking, I was bringing up the what quests are auto completed with Kandarin because I know in Dead Man mode sometimes Waterfall is auto completed, isn't it? Depending on like what quest you go for. Sorry, not Waterfall, but like Grand Tree and stuff.
Yeah.
And it looks like you miss out on the Grand Tree XP, but you can still do Waterfall, you can still do Fight Arena, and they get you a ton of experience. So
Yep.
yeah, that's interesting.
Like and also you can do them at level 1 combat. You don't have to go and fight like chickens and cows
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Like
super
you'll
chill.
just skip straight to doing Scurious or basically whatever you want. And
Mhm.
yeah, like at the end of the day, okay, saving like 2 hours of time, it's not like game defining and stuff, but like for me who I love that day 1 experience
Oh, it's
and
great.
it's like, the first account just hits different and I don't know. It's in the back of my mind right now. I'm probably not gonna be sold on it just because I really like this current one, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
Combat Rush just seems so fun.
Oh, for sure. And I think that you just touched on it there. One of my favorite things about the leagues is how different your experience is first account to second. If anyone's ever played on, more than one account, you'll know this feeling. But like the first one is the thrill of the rush. Everyone's there on day one. It's so much fun. It's the closest thing to logging into RuneScape back in the day and it just being packed out. And it's great. It's such a good experience. And then your second playthrough is a bit more relaxed. They're fun for like totally different reasons. Like the first one, I feel like, right, I'm not wasting a game tick. I'm going. And on my second playthrough, I'm like, oh, this is nice. I'm enjoying this because I know what I'm doing and I can just do it at my own pace. That's not to say you can't do that on your first playthrough, but for me, they're the differences between first and second, and they're both great for their own reasons.
Yeah, and it's also like a lot of unknown variables the first time around. Like you don't know all the
Yeah,
weird strategies. Like, man, picking relics that first time around, it kind of stings a bit, right? Because you're
oh
like,
for
man, I'm
sure.
like actually locking it in now, and
Yeah,
I have no idea what else is gonna come up. Like, it's tough.
yeah, it really is. So have you covered everything on your bill?
I think that's just about it. The only other thing I guess is melee inferno is going to be a lot of fun. I'm gonna shoot
Yeah.
Zuck with my trumpet. You know, it's
Yeah.
going to be a good time.
Yeah, so I think with following our last call, I did just double check that, and melee Zuck I think should be possible. He's not immune. It's just that there's no current melee weapons that can reach him. So super cool that that's a possibility this league.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose I'll go through what my current plan is, or at least one playthrough that I do kind of want to lock in. I don't know if it's going to be the first one I do, but I'm pretty set on these regions, and I want to go the wilderness to Ranwin and Mauritania. I think that they are three regions that, or at least Taramwin and the wilderness are two regions that were so unpopular last league. And I don't tend to pick them because I don't love the content there. But I think that's going to change a lot this league. The wilderness has had a lot of improvements. Taramwin has got the Crystal Blessing, which just that item alone is buffing Taramwin to be insane with melee. So this is obviously a melee focused build. The idea is that I really want to play with the Thunder Kopesh at some point
Oh yeah,
because
that thing is
it
so
just
sick.
looks so much fun. Since we've seen Masteries, though, I do think that the Kopesh is not as crazy as I once thought it was. It's great. It's a 4-tick weapon, so it'll go down to 2-tick. But like, so will so many other really good 5-tick weapons. So I feel like the competition is definitely like closing in a bit now. Either way, I want to play with the Kopesh, and I'm thinking just going for like a pretty standard 6 in melee and 4 in range, 0 in mage. And that's not because I think mage is bad, but just I did so much mage in Leagues 4 and Leagues 2 that I want to avoid it. Yeah, and I think Wilderness is going to be insane for early resources. If you can get by the fact that people on day one probably will troll and rag you a little bit, that tends to die out by day 2 or whenever people get bored of that or you progress beyond the people who are clowning around. When you get past that, the resources Wildy gives you early is insane. No entry fee for revs or for the agility course means that you can get full rune, restores, really high healing food, on day 1. That's all solved pretty quickly with the Wildy. And obviously going through revs is going to get you straight into being Scurious ready as well, very early on. To Ramwin, honestly, I feel like it's a bit of a kind of like a wedged in region. Like I'm only picking it for the Crystal Blessing to buff.
I mean,
the
it's pretty good.
Kopesh.
I feel like it's basically like an armor region now, where it just gives you some good armor, pretty early.
Yeah, and like I find Taranwin we spoke about this on the very first call, like half of the region is obsolete because it's just swamp or forest. But like the stuff that is there is really valuable. We can do melee Zora now. Insane. That's going to be so much fun.
Oh yeah, I was having a crisis the other day because I couldn't figure out how to do Zora with my set. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to do because I had something similar to this at one point, and I was like, I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. And then somebody said like Noxious Halberd, and I was like screaming at 3 a.m. I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
yes, I can do Zora now. Like
Yeah.
it was just I don't know. I was like it was an epiphany for me.
It's great. But even before, because I also had the same thoughts. I was like, right, so Mauritania stonks are going crazy. But obviously, the other thing that's in the back of my mind about that is Araxora's 92 Slayer requirement. Going to take a while to get there. Going to take a while to get the Halberd. Before that, though, just by unlocking Taramwin, you can buy a Dragon Halberd from one of the shops there. So you can jump straight into Melee Zora if you're locking down early Melee Masteries. So that'll be fun. But the end goal for the WMT playthrough will be Crystal Blessing, Full Crystal, Blood Fury, and Scythe, just going kind of like crazy with the multi-hits and summoning the Echo Ghosts. I think it is probably a bit of a basic build. A lot of people have had that thought, or at least through one variation or another. But that's where I'm going with it.
I think it's like I don't want to say it's like a basic build because I think there's so many variations of it, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you can go. It's like Mauritania seems to be like the melee region right now because I mean there's just so much to do there. But
Yeah.
I feel like all the other stuff just works really well with it, and that's the cool part for me is that like I think Man, this is the one thing I have about like I feel like looking back at previous leagues, I felt like we didn't really have that many choices compared to the obscene amount of like variety
Yeah,
that you can do now. Where like
so
you
good.
can almost like build, you know, like build a bear your own like
Yeah,
build now. You can do whatever you want. It's just it's so sick. I think it's kind of crazy.
yeah, I love that. I really love that, and that is why I think if you were to ask us again on the morning of the launch, a lot of this is going to change. Because every day I sit there and I go through my plan so far or what I'm thinking of doing, and I think like, oh, but actually with the melee build, Varlamore would be fun because I really want to get a full set of Blood Moon and go crazy with that tier 6 melee mastery and just, multiple hits, multiple echo hits being summoned or whatever. It sounds like so much fun. And then I'm like, oh, I want to do Echo Soul, and then I'm like, oh, but I'll miss out on this or that. And it is really difficult. I think if you're only going to play on one account this league, I feel bad for you,
Yep.
because it's hard. It's hard to pick something.
Yeah, I know. Like I really wanted to do Echo Soul as well. Like that's a cool one. One of my friends might be coming to play leagues, and they really want to do Mauritania. So now I'm like, all right, now I feel like I have to do Mauritania because
Yeah.
it's like an old buddy. And then yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
It's so hard to do that. And then but the cool part is I feel like I don't have to change my build that much. I can just sort of like cut corners, so to speak,
Yeah.
be like, all right, well, we
Yeah.
don't need this thing. Maybe we could just go for here instead and kind of
Yeah.
just make it work. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think in that way, it's actually harder to min-max this league because I at least this is what I've experienced. Every time I want to min-max a build and go for absolute best in slot, I'm missing out on like that raid region that like people I want to play with the picking, or I'm missing out on a piece of content or a boss that I really want to do. And I'm thinking like, does it matter like for the sacrifice of like, I don't know, 4 or 5 max hits, can I drop that region? I probably can. Like, will it matter? Probably not. No one's gonna remember if you had the highest hit splat or not. Um, so yeah, I'm with you.
Yep. I don't know. I think it's so cool how they nailed it. And then the combat masteries adds like a little bit more depth. I've been wanting to do like because I was thinking about doing like Tyranwin and Mauritania at one point as well. And for me, like melee sounds really awesome, but then I thought about like going for mage instead. Um, yeah, because I don't know. I think mage in Mauritania is actually pretty cool now. Um, I think in general,
Especially if you're
like
picking the Grimoire, it like
oh
gives you
yeah,
access to everything that Mori is missing, right?
yeah. I think Mauritania in general is probably the most interesting region right now because it's been such a PVM dense region in general. And also there's something I've been eyeing, and that's the 20,000 prayer lamp from Barrows. So I might go
Yeah.
practice
What
how
does
to
that
like
work out at?
uh
I'm sure I saw someone say like 600k XP at
so
tier, like an early tier.
so if you do it at tier 3, I think it puts you at I want to say 60 something prayer basically. And if you
Crazy.
can somehow find a way to do it, because you don't actually need prayer to do them, you can like snare them,
Oh,
I guess,
yeah.
and like I don't know,
I
figure out a
mean,
way not to die from like
we've all
RM.
seen Settle's like nightmare mode at this point, right? If
Yep.
he can, if he can do it that way, not use any prayer or minimal prayer, totally doable.
Yeah. So I'm
I mean,
very
he is on another level though, so
curious. Yeah, I'm very curious how I can like try to get there early because I think getting your prayer figured out like somewhat early is going to help a lot in general to start doing combat.
yeah, for sure. But with the elemental weakness, Barrows is super doable early, and actually, I'm kind of eating my words from a video I did. I want to say about a month ago about best regions to pick first. And this was kind of based on information that we've had throughout all the leagues so far. Obviously, we've had a lot of reveals that have kind of changed that, but I was always considering Mauritania as a pretty bad first region to pick. I don't think that's the case anymore. These big early multipliers, the good advantage that you get through the combat masteries, they're going to boost up your combat capability early. The Slayer Tower there is going to be one of the best resources for getting to another combat mastery unlock, the level
And the Slayer
55 Slayer
helmet
one.
too.
The Slayer helmet's going to be great. Um, the Barrows, your first ever Barrows one, which you can do as scuffed as you want, but just doing one run solves overhead prayers instantly. I think that's insane. Mori is actually looking like a good first region this year.
Yeah, I think we were chatting about this a little bit, and I think I was telling you because at the time I was thinking about going like Varlamore and Mauritania, and I was thinking
Yeah,
about going Mauritania first, start like doing swamp lizards like right
yeah,
out of the rip, and
yeah.
so
The
that way I
hunter
could
tech.
like skip all of the like early game like Varlamore, all those like bad hunter tasks early, and just like
Yeah,
blast swamp lizards like crazy until I get to like antelopes or something like that.
yeah.
So it's cool.
So that's interesting. I think those builds are really cool. If I can ask you one more question, because I think this is something I really have enjoyed and struggled trying to do. What do you think is the best standalone combat mastery?
You mean style or like what style?
Just like one of them, like you just have to pick out one. Doesn't matter which style, just like which one do you think stands out to you as like this is the my favorite combat mastery?
I think I really like ranged. The third one. I think that one giving because it turns blowpipes into one tick. And you only
Yeah.
have to invest 3 points into it. I think that's really, really cool. And it kind of feels nice. Like I know you're going Tyrannwin, so you'll actually have access to that. And I think that's
Mm.
awesome.
That's interesting that you picked a tier three as well. Like, I think everyone probably assumes when you say what's the best combat mastery that you're going to pick a tier six one. But that is actually a really good point because you can get that super early. The hardest thing you're going to have to do is defeat Scurious. If you want to do that, you might even go down the route of getting 55 Slayer first. There is an argument that that is also very quick. Um, yeah, interesting. I wouldn't have pegged you to pick that, so that is cool.
Well,
I'm going to be super basic.
yeah, go for it.
I'm going to be super basic and say tier six ranged. And that is only because it feels like a meme, man. Like, just like anyone who, anything that you would previously fight that you wouldn't use ranged against, it's like, nah, I think I'm good. And you just stay on ranged. It's like Akka's praying ranged, and you're like, yeah, that's not going to work, buddy. I think this is just so much fun. And it's going to lead. My only qualm with it is that I feel like rushing a tier six range build almost feels like similar to what you were saying about Banker's Note early. It ignores so much of the game's mechanics that I'm wondering if it will get old pretty quick because you're like, oh, okay, I don't need any more gear. Like I've got my range set up. I'm done. The game is solved. But I do think it's really fun. It's a bit of a meme. So tier six range is my favorite.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I don't know how I feel about it because like it feels like the capstone, like the tier 6 ones should be really strong, but the range one feels like way stronger than melee and magic. Like if you're gonna go for ranged, you gotta go for 6 because it, and you want to go for 6 like as fast as possible. Like
Yeah.
that's what you should be planning is just how do I get to 6 range and then like kind of do whatever you want basically. And I think
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that like you could have tier six ranged and be using something as weak as like steel or mithril knives, like throwing knives, and you will out DPS someone who has, tier six anything else with the gear that they'll have at that point. It just feels like the power spike early is insane. Um, and just not having to bring switches, I guess you could argue that that is a really, uh, friendly mastery to bring if your regions don't favor other styles very well. So I think it's really flexible. I'm with you though. I think that when I look at those tier six relics, melee versus range versus magic, the range one stands out to me like this breaks the game. And the other two are great. I just maybe I haven't ran the numbers on them properly yet, but they just don't look as good.
Yeah, they're just like the melee one is cool because you'll randomly like hit like a 300 or something, you know, like that's
Yeah.
fun, but it's not like game breaking in the way that the ranged one is. Magic one's hard because it's just like magic is so weird. I feel like it's better than it looks. It's
Yeah.
just weird. It's a weirdo.
Yeah. I said this in my most recent video about like going through the masteries and stuff. And I feel like magic is in a weird space because tiers 3 and 5 talk about the attack speed. I feel like magic is the one that actually benefits the least from this because a lot of magic weapons are on the same attack speed cycle, especially if you're auto casting spells. I think, charged staves get a bit more of an advantage. But like because of that, magic feels like it's in a bit more of a weird spot how like your weapon doesn't matter so much as your gear does. Like magic damage is always going to trump having anything else. So again, it just kind of puts the shadow on a pedestal. And I'm sure it is better than it looks. But for me, it is just kind of like not as creative.
Right. And I will say that's why I actually like the um I think that's why I really liked the what am I talking about? The third one, the third tier, the one that turns
Yeah.
blowpipes into one is
Yeah.
specifically because I think the best use case for that is to actually go for like a Drygor blowpipe or just a regular blowpipe early
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then transition into the mage build. And
Exactly.
I think that's actually so cool that like the early game mage problem is solved by not being a major, which
Yeah.
is like that I don't know, that's just kind of cool.
Yeah, there's totally different ways to play it. And this is what I think is also amazing is like there's no set mastery path that I think trumps another one. Like 640 is the first one that comes to my mind. 505 is great. 1 3 and God, my maths bloody terrible. 1 3 and 6 is also good. And there are so many other ways you can do that. You know, I saw someone saying that they were going to go down a nature's reprisal build going for a like 3 3 4, which I think is really cool as well. Um, there's loads of different ways you can do it. I don't think there's a wrong way.
Yeah, I honestly think that people might be underestimating like the benefit of taking one early of a different style just based on like kind of what your setup is.
Mm.
I think for something like range, probably good to go ahead and rush it
Yeah,
and stuff. But
yeah,
um, yeah, like it's like you'll get your combat masteries fast enough. But I think sometimes throwing in like one for another one, um, you know, again, that's what really sold me on kind of a mage thing originally was to put some into range or to put some into melee and then switch
yeah,
because you'll still kind of get that towards the end. And also because it's on the third one, that ranged one, you can put 3 points and then still max out 6 without having to do Zuck. So
yeah,
yeah, like it's actually kind of cool that you'll get all 9 points there. You'll still get that tier 6 one,
yeah,
and the magic one especially. One thing I noticed about it is that like you will actually get like the execute on Inferno and like fight caves and all that stuff. You'll
yeah,
get a lot of
yeah,
executes there as well.
yeah. High
Sadly, I've been
HP
trying
mobs,
to
especially.
I was doing a lot of calculations last night, trying to figure out a way, but I was not able to like get enough max hit to kill the rangers in the Inferno because I thought that if I could get just enough damage there, then it would be pretty cool. But I couldn't do it, sadly. Although I did
Yeah.
manage to. The calculator told me I can hit a 225 on Araxor with the volatile nightmare staff spec.
Oh, that's
That was
huge.
pretty cool. That was a big number. That was pretty big.
Yeah. That's big. I mean, you will have to go through the arduous task of actually farming the nightmare, but that might be fun, like especially if you're going down that magic route anyway. I think that's going to be good.
Yeah, I think I like that they're all like super balanced. I honestly think that magic is I think people just don't want to do it because everybody did it last year. That's kind
Yeah.
of it.
Last year was the year of the shadow. I think
Yeah.
anyone who went for that or burnt out from Toa if they didn't get their shadow is either feeling pretty hard done by or that that they just want to try something different. I'm in that boat as well. All right, cool. So I think that's everything we were going to go through, right?
I think that's it. Yeah, that's I think the big things we want to talk about. I mean,
Mm,
I feel like honestly the frustrate like I feel like the cool part is like we could just sit here and talk about combat masteries like literally all
yeah,
day. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So we gotta
yeah.
we gotta keep it somewhat
Yeah,
organized.
especially because we'll go into it in depth and a relic. You know, we've still got the combat masteries to come out. I'm still holding out faith that that's going to have a special attacking relic. I have no idea what it's going to be up against, but I'm still, holding out for that. And that could be today. That could be within the next hour. Um, so I think what we'll do is we'll put a pin on it there. That looks really good so far. I think it was really fun to go through our builds and also see how much they change on the day of release. So I'll be dropping you a message in game. We'll see what you've actually gone for in the end.
But yeah, I have a pretty interesting idea. It's something we said that we would
Mm.
do at some point,
Okay.
and that was the new region rankings. If
Oh
that's
yeah.
even possible anymore. But I have our old ones. We could run through and see where we're at right now.
Okay.
In a vacuum. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's
Go
let's
through.
just run through them. I'm not going to go into detail, but let's run through them. Watch me go into detail now, by the way.
Yep. Okay. So do you have the old list by chance?
I don't. Have you got it? Can you send it to me?
I do have it. I'll send it over right now. And we will just adjust it.
Aha, perfect. Let me pop this out. Right. Okay.
I think there's a very obvious pick here. That's
the last place.
Yeah, I think the last place is very
Oh,
obvious
come on.
here. Yep.
Come on. Don't try and defend Kandarin. Let's just put it at the bottom.
Yep, we can put it at the bottom. It's not like, again, I think it has value for people, but it's pretty bad. Like I think the biggest thing is that everyone else in our bottom thing got huge boosts, and Kandarin just didn't. And I think that's
Yeah. I really don't think there's any level of copium on a reveal that's going to revive Kandarin. For me, anyway. Maybe something else will come out that buffs magic to that point where the Devil's Element is actually a really high value item, and Kandarin is just a great utility region anyway. But it just doesn't. It's not enough for me. So let's put it in 9th.
Yep. It's just got nothing.
I'm going to be honest. I'm looking at the full list right now, and I am going to really struggle with this because they are all so good.
Hard. Yeah, it's like it's really hard. I will say though, I think I have like a top 2 right now.
Okay. What would you put for 8 though? Because I want to throw something out there that's like pretty wild, I think. Can I just say that I think Fremy, I want to rank it low.
Really? Why is that?
Because it's got great, okay, the Echo item is insane. It really is. But for me, the content there hasn't changed. Or enough for me anyway. And I think that some of the other regions I prefer more. So Fremy for me is like, and I think for a lot of people out there, I'm going to pick this because it gives me the best in-slot jewelry. Not I'm going to pick this because the content there is amazing or because my relics synergize really well with that region. I get it for construction and a couple of other things. Not enough. But what do you think? What would you put at 8?
I totally agree, because let's just say right here that if we're basing it off content, not just we're picking, because I think most people are going to pick this for the gear.
Yeah.
I will say though, I think Fremenic does not deserve to be a number 8 because they changed it so you don't have to do the prep for Duke. You can skip that. So I think Fremenic should go up a tier, and I think that Ascarnia should be a number 8 personally.
Okay.
Because Ascarnia doesn't have max cape is given to everybody now.
True.
Pest control doesn't give you experience anymore.
Yeah.
God Wars Dungeon is still a stinker. Like, I think Ascarnia might just be like very bottom for me right now.
Actually, I'm happy to go with you on that one. I only am ever considering Asgarnia for a potential ranged build and for a potential build that involves the dog sword if we get a good special attack in Relic. However, the content there, if anything, has just been nerfed. Yeah. Okay. 8th place Asgarnia.
I think that makes 6th Fremenic then. Would that, or no, not,
what about
not 8th, 7th. That would be 7th. Yeah. I'm happy to put there with the caveat of the content is still pretty rough. You're only going there because you want the jewelry. Like, just don't lie to yourself. Like, we know why you're going there. I'm doing it too.
But, yeah, I'm doing it too. Listen, I'm picking it, but I'm happy to admit that it's just for the jewelry. So yeah, let's go Fremy 7, and then I think for go on.
So I ranked it as number 1 last time. I think the desert moves to number 6 now.
Yeah,
because
I was gonna try and convince you to move the desert down, but it doesn't look like I need to.
No, because I think the biggest thing that I think a lot of people are sort of catching on right now is that the desert just isn't really good for ranged either. Because, like, what are you getting out of the desert right now? You don't really need the Drygore blowpipe because there's just better ranged options. Masori is like teensy tiny bit of rage straight. Like, that's not even that interesting, and
not compared to Fremy anyway. You know, like if you're picking Fremy on a range build, this is what I've been talking about with some people in Discord. It's like, oh, I'm trying to make a range build, but I feel like I might have to pick the desert, and people are like, why? Because like the 8 range strength is not that significant. The
There's
Drygore
just nothing.
blowpipe. Honestly, I've been on a roller coaster with the Drygore blowpipe because I think I called it out in one of my first videos as being kind of subpar, and then being like, "Oh, the Drygore blowpipe's insane." And now we've seen combat masteries. I feel like the Toxic blowpipe is better. If you're going tier 6 ranged and you never miss, Toxic is better than Drygore. So it's back down there for me again. I'm with you though. Let's move the desert down.
Yep, desert's number 6. So top 5
Yeah.
now. This is I think where it gets a little tricky. Pretty difficult to
Yeah.
do.
Yes. So Varlamore's already at number 5.
hmm
I honestly wouldn't be mad if it stayed there.
I have one more contender, and I think that's the Wildy for number 5 for me.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think that's fair. That they're what I'm deciding between as well.
because I think Varlamore just has more like cool content than the Wildy. Like
Yeah,
it has
I agree.
Echo Soul, it has even Vardorvis is pretty cool, and it's just new. Whereas like the Wildy, I'm glad that it's an option, but I don't think it really has that much like it's not going to be that insane. I think to do.
Mm, I'm with you. I
So
think yeah, my reason for Wildy being higher this league is actually just because of the power it gives you early and because of how cool the Kopesh looks. If we're looking at those two things in isolation though, I don't think it's going to be as fun as the amount of novelty that a lot of people, including myself, are going to experience with Varlamore. So it's definitely between those two. And honestly, I'd be down to putting it to a coin toss.
yeah, I mean,
Either you decide or we coin
I
toss.
I think hey, we'll just coin toss. Screw it. I mean, I feel like they're both pretty much in the same. You're right now.
Okay.
Do you wanna do a coin toss? I'll call heads.
I was wondering if I even had a coin here, but I tell you what, I've
Yeah.
got my camera lens. Okay.
Okay, let's do that.
The side with the Sony on it is heads.
Or the Wildy. That's the Wildy.
Yeah, is the Wildy. The flat side is Varlamore. Ready?
Let's do it.
It's the Sony side.
So that's Wildy number 5, right?
Wildy number 5. Yeah.
Okay, Varlamore number 4.
Yeah.
And I think I'm happy to put both of those. Really depends on I think just how like Echo KBD comes out looking. So top 3.
Yeah. So top 3, I think that so Zaya is what we decided on to be first last time.
Mm.
And I've got to be honest, that's gonna have to come down. I think that the Echo item there isn't as strong as the other ones, but also Mauritania has seen like a huge buff, I think, this league. And I would honestly argue, what regions have we got left? We've got Taramwin, Zaya, and Mauritania. And I think in terms of order from 3 to 1, that's how it goes. It goes Taramwin at 3, Zaya at 2, and Mauritania at 1. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but where are you?
I think Zaya might be 3 for me personally because no, I think I'm
Yeah,
overrating
that's
Tyranwen.
oh, wait,
Tyranwen
no,
doesn't
no, no, I
actually
put 2 in 1 there.
Tyranwen
Yeah.
doesn't have that much now that I think about it either. I almost feel like yeah, I almost feel like I would almost put Tyranwen at number 5 now. Now that I think about it, I feel like Varlamore and Wildy might be cooler than Tyranwen.
Don't upset Mod Husky, man. He's getting so excited right
I
now,
know
I'm sure.
he saw it top 2 and it just got shot down to 5 in like 2 seconds.
Nah, don't
Um,
upset him. I genuinely think that the power spike that Taramwin gives you this league is crazy. The fact you can melee Zora is fun. The fact that the Trident drops as a full item. Trident. Wait, what am I trying to say there?
you're
Zora doesn't actually get a buff to the Magic Fang, does it? Or does it drop as
it
a
drops the Trident now. Yeah,
It
Trident of the
does.
Swamp.
Okay. So that's another really big reason and a big win for Taramwin. And I would still argue that it would be top 4.
Yeah. I think Tyranwen probably 3rd for me now because
Yeah, okay.
at the end of the day, like it is really cool now, but it also doesn't have that much content, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like we can say like Kandarin doesn't have content, right? But like this Tyranwen really only has what Zulrah and Corrupted Gauntlet, and Zulrah is kind of a joke in leagues. Like it dies
Mhm.
before it even like looks at you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
now that you can melee it too, I mean it's going to be a joke. So
Yeah, that's gonna be so much fun. I mean, now that you can melee it, I will say, does that mean you should? I think I'd have to check the stats, but doesn't the red Zulrah have an insane amount of melee defense?
yeah, I mean probably, but I think that like if you have good damage, right? I think the first 2 phases are always green or blue, so might be able to just kill it. So
I'm just looking now because I'm genuinely curious. It does not have. I mean, it's got 300 defense, but it doesn't really have any actual melee defense on top of it. So yeah, melee actually looks super viable for the whole thing. That's interesting. Yeah. So Tyrion win third place. I'm with you. That's what I said originally. I think we'll lock that in.
Yep.
2-1 though.
then I
I
think
think
that
we're both on
makes
this. I knew you were going to go
yeah.
Mauritania 1, and I think I agree.
Yep. So we'll put Zaya in second. I guess
Mhm.
quickly on Zaya, like I think it's still got a lot of really cool content, but I just don't like Chambers that much. And I think it loses a lot of value from I think a lot of people choosing to go like Grimoire instead
Yeah,
because that's
I
that
agree.
like that might it might change though based on what else is in that tier. Maybe people will end up kind of wanting those prayers because I mean prayers are good. They're nice to have.
Yeah.
Um, Other than that, I mean, it's still got a lot of cool mega rares like Din's Bulwark. I think people haven't even really thought about that one very much. Maybe there's a world where you can make that work. Dragon Claws might end up being cool with spec. Like,
There's still a lot that people haven't done. I think people have looked at these masteries and thought of very specific builds that suit them, but haven't necessarily remembered that there are plenty of builds that work really fine without masteries even in consideration. So the Door Gang build, having Mauritania and Zaya to have a full set of Justicia with a Din's Bulwark is still going to be really strong. Um, but there are, just other builds that I think cater to the masteries better. Yeah, I'm with you though. Zaya is just a little bit. There's a lot to do there. It's great as an early region. There's a lot of good skilling things. I'm just going to say, I think Zaya is just a little bit boring on the face of it this league. Just looking at the Echo item as well. I love the Nature's Reprise and I think it's so much fun. But it's not something I'm going to focus a build around. So,
I think
yeah,
Catacombs
Mauritania.
are probably being slept on pretty hard because having a lot of really good Slayer monsters that are all in multi
Yeah.
combat that you're not going to be fighting with people as much for, like that's a really. I mean, it's going to be crowded there too. Don't get me wrong, but like more than the other good Slayer places will be. I would say like
Yeah.
you're going to have
And
a better time getting there.
am I right in thinking, because this was a thing in previous leagues, but I honestly haven't checked for this league, Slayer Masters aren't locked behind level requirements?
Yeah, you can go to whatever one you want.
Yeah. So having a Konar Slayer task available as early as your first region, and you might still be like 20, 30 combat by the time you unlock your first region, you're going to be getting Brimstone keys doing really, really easy Slayer tasks, really easy Slayer tasks. And they can give you things like full rune, a lot of early supplies and money. I think that bit is also kind of slept on a little bit. Early Konar Slayer. Everyone understands what Konar Slayer looks like late game, but early game, I think it is incredibly strong. So it is still good for that. I mean, it's number 2. It's not like we're doing it dirty at all. I think number 2 is still a really respectable place in Fazea.
Yeah, and then I think number one, Mauritania. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
I think
why
it's
is
just going to be
Mauritania
so much
so
fun.
good? Like why how is it just so good right now?
I just think like it's everything that it was weak for before. Not a great first region. Um, a lot of the component pieces were a big issue. So like people were seeing Araxor and thinking like, oh, but I have to pick Kandarin. Not anymore. Um, the mega rares now going into Tob as well. It's almost like Mauritania gives you flexibility to do anything. It's really good just on its own. Like if you just used gear that you got in Mauritania and nothing else, you would still have a really strong setup. All styles, pretty much.
Yeah, I think Mauritania is crazy, and not only is it like an all arounder now with Barrow's gear and all three mega rares and stuff like that, but you can
Yeah.
also cheat your way through some stuff like Grimoire. You get ancient
Yeah.
magics now, which you couldn't do before. But I think the real thing for me that Mauritania is so crazy is that it offers things that no other region does. I think Slayer Helm is very, very strong. It's going like that's an extra damage bonus on like half the Echo bosses, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also I think the Noxious Halberd. I mean that thing is going to be really good to use. It's going to be very
Beast.
strong to use, and it gives melee that extra, I guess, option that like
Yeah.
not every region offers.
Yeah. If you're going tier 5 melee mastery, that's a 2-tick halberd, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be insane.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy. Cool. So that is our new region ranking. I can't see it on my screen right now, but I bet that the comparison looks super strange now.
Yeah. Do you want me to send you the kind of like
Yeah,
side by
yeah,
side
go
because
for it.
it's pretty cool to see. Like it, yeah. Things are jumping up and down all over the place.
Man, that is. I mean, I would say that Mauritania and Zaire were two regions we ranked pretty high before,
Mhm.
and Varlamore. They're probably the only three regions that have stayed relatively around the same area. Everything else has just flipped.
Yeah, pretty much. They did a really good job, I think, of making all the regions. Like I was saying forever, like you have to have a raid region this year. You have to have a raid region, and like half the builds I made, I was like, I don't want a raid region. I'm chilling doing this. Like, you
Oh
know,
yeah, I keep having that dilemma of putting together a really fun looking build and then thinking like, oh, but I don't have a raid. And I'm like, does it matter though? Actually, it's like I guess when you're looking at like DPS, I guess it doesn't matter. But the one thing I don't want to miss out on this league is playing with people in the community, playing
right?
with other
Yeah,
people. So that's the one reason I feel locked in to do a raid region. But I think that the average person, um, if you're not bothered about playing with groups of other people, you don't need a raid region.
yep.
Yeah.
And like you can still like you can do some pretty fun builds and stuff like that. You don't have to go to raids. If you do go to raids, I don't think you're going to struggle to find people doing Theater of Blood. Like there's going to be learner tobs are going to be they're going to go
Yeah.
hard this year. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, I'm gonna have to dust off the PVM skills. Honestly, I feel like I haven't actually managed to play the game throughout this whole reveal season.
oh yeah, me too.
And I'm just gonna go in and I'm just gonna plank so quick.
I was thinking I'm like I got to go like practice doing like Zuck or something like that just so I can like
Yeah.
get in there and first try it, get my
Yeah.
combat mastery and leave. Like I don't want to be dying in there.
Oh man, I've got to embarrass my. I'm just holding my hands up now. I'm probably gonna, take a few attempts to do the Inferno at least. So it is what it is. Dying is part of it, and I think it's just going to be what it looks like to me, like the most fun league so far. I think they've combined. Honestly, it feels like they've combined the freedom of Shattered Relics League with the restriction of Leagues 4 or like the Trailblazer format in like a way that looks really good this year.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's awesome. Like there's just so many possibilities. I don't think you can go wrong this year, like at all. It's like very hard to go wrong. I think everything has something going for it. Except Kandarin. Kandarin's pretty weak right now. But like
Poor
again,
Gander, man.
even then, like, if you're just chilling, you're having like this is your first time playing leagues and you want to do like Kandarin and then like a raid and like Fremenic, like that's fine too, right? Like spend your time doing content you like and just skip all the Kandarin stuff anyways. Nobody's going to make you do 2000 monkey laps, right? Like that's not happening. So I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. At
I
least
don't
that's
know how
been
they did
removed.
it. Like it's actually crazy. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah,
Like my expectations were already really high and they somehow like exceeded it. So
yeah,
props to the devs. They've been just
yeah,
insane this year.
yeah. Absolutely agree. I think it looks great. Everything so far, reveals, format, the relics, the balancing. It just seems to have people really hyped up. And just a quick shout out. We both got our own discords here. I'm sure we both got our own kind of like discussion forums in there, as well as the official league's discussion forums. All of those are such fun places to take this conversation further if you are interested in that. So definitely check those out.
Yeah, I remember. I think honestly, last night I sat there with people and we were just like cranking out like, how do we get another max hit? It's like,
Yeah,
oh, well, what if we have a
yeah, yeah,
Slayer helm? Like, oh, how can
yeah.
we get two more max hit on this like shadow? And we were
Oh,
just going
dude.
up and up and up and up and up, and it was just so fun, like putting our heads together, just finding out these like weird combos
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, it's really cool.
I love that. One that made me laugh was I was putting together this super weird build that probably no one is ever going to do. It's like a Bloodbark Ancient Scepter, like Blood Barrage build,
Hmm.
but like it lacks the ability to get a Blood Talisman, or at least it did at the time, because we found out now you can buy a Blood Talisman from like a shop somewhere. That's something they put in for Leagues 5. But before that, we didn't. And then like everyone was like, oh, but what about Guardians of the Rift if you changed your region for this? Or actually, what if you got 99 Runecraft first? You take Banker's Note, you get 99 Runecraft in, the Runecraft Cape acts as a talisman. All of this like crazy theory crafting, I think is what I love most about Leagues. It's great.
Yeah, like and it just like it extends to so many areas. Like I think I'm probably more excited this year just to see like the super weird builds that I want to try, and I just straight up don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I really want to see the toxic. Like I've seen the toxic blowpipe with like 6 ranged and going and
Yeah.
doing like soul and stuff like that. Like that sounds. Oh, that sounds so fun, and I really want to do it, but I can't fit up. Like I wouldn't be able to do a raid region, and I'm like, I'm
I
dying
know.
so
That's
hard.
my exact dilemma. Valamore, I think when we last spoke about regions, I wanted to rank it higher because I thought it was going to be so much fun. I still think it is. I just can't find a way to squeeze it into my regions without losing out on something big that I want. Hopefully that changes between now and launch because I do want to
Yeah,
pick Varlamore.
me
We'll
too.
see.
I really do. I really do. But I
Yeah,
that's a hard sell right now.
it really is. Nice. Okay, dude. Well, they are our region rankings. And yeah, they've changed a lot. I think we're both happy with them. And it's been super fun going through this today. I think we've got another reveal in 30 minutes. So we'll see what that is and whether it changes everything again.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it's not too crazy. Like hopefully, like I don't know. I mean, they said that all the major stuff is gonna happen earlier on, but yeah, I don't know. Oh, well, I guess one thing we have not talked about yet that I would like to hear your take on is there is still going to be one tier of combat relics, right? And like that is, I mean, we talked about it a bit, I guess, with the spec relic, but like that's definitely, I think, going to shake things up. And I kind of hope it's a little bit later on so that you are still incentivized to do points and do tasks, and it's not just like
Yeah.
completely ditch that system.
Yeah, so one thing that I thought was really cheeky actually was the most recent reveal at the time of us doing this video are the relic tiers and their passives. But one thing that's very evident from that is that they have cut out the tiers that don't have a passive. So tier 6 is it doesn't have a passive and it goes up to tier 7. So that's not saying that there's only 7 relic tiers. I would actually bet my money there's definitely more. Um and is that 8th relic tier the new combat relic? And is that 8th relic tier like godlike levels of combat power on top of the masteries in a way that's going to spin it so that we look at that mastery tree totally differently?
I think that would be really cool, and it would. I don't know because the only thing I'm like, I hope it's not like so insanely like broken that like now you feel like you do have to go back to like the super task grind.
Yeah,
But at
yeah,
the
yeah,
same time, like just remember that like there's a lot of points behind PVM as well, right? So it might
yeah,
be the
yeah.
case that the fastest way to the highest tier is
It's
just
combat.
by yeah, it's just combat and grinding bosses and getting in and starting to kill monsters. Like the before, I think the bigger limiter was always like the drop rate. You just felt bad grinding when you could go a little bit more and get the better drop rate. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you got the highest drop rate already, and you're pretty much like you're gonna max your combat so fast. Then yeah, that might be the way forward.
I think it is. I'm gonna hazard a guess now. I think that is the way it's gonna work. Go get your first your first 4 relic tiers done, and then dig into whatever you want. That's not gonna put people in a position where they're grinding for weeks. That's gonna be super attainable pretty quick. And then you're gonna have all that freedom to do whatever and not feel bad because you're missing out on an extra 2 times drop rate. So yeah. Um, I I'm a bit opposite to you though, because I do want them to be super broken, but I almost want there to be an incentive to not rush it. So I hope that they're super broken in the sense of like, oh, this opens up like a totally different build path for me, or like this fills in a weakness that my build path has. But I still want to do my combat masteries first, or I still want to balance it all out. I certainly
Yeah,
don't want to be in a position where I have to do 8 relic tiers before I can play the game, you know?
yeah, but it would be cool if it like makes you think about something because like uh, we can't like respec our picks, so having to like keep that in consideration, knowing you're going to get it a little bit
Yeah,
later on, that's pretty
yeah.
interesting to think about.
You know what makes me laugh about that is like in like a lot of modern RPGs, right?
Hmm.
Growing up, I swear I've developed some sort of like RPG skill point anxiety where like I don't want to spec into that yet because I might change my mind later. So I wonder how many people are going to be in that boat of like, oh, I'm holding on to like 3 mastery points because I don't want to spend them on the wrong thing. It's like I wish there was a way that Jagex did put a way to respec that in, make that a really high cost. But I wish there was a way because I feel like it's gonna be really difficult for those people who are only doing one league's playthrough and, might regret some of their choices.
Yeah,
But
I
I
would like
understand
to
why
see
not as
something like
well.
that. I do agree with you that
Mm.
like it is tough that you can't try out a lot of the other things. I think the permanence is like it's kind of important. Like you shouldn't be
Part of
able to
it.
just
It
like
is
go to
part
your
of it,
bank
you
and
know.
change everything. But like I think if it was like a rare drop or something, like a pretty rare drop that you could get, and it maybe like let you change a couple of them around, like that would be kind
Yeah.
of cool.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying I expect it or anything, but
No,
it'd
nor
be
do
it'd be
I.
cool to see.
Nor do I. And I do really like that the fact that these choices are permanent regions and your masteries. That's just part of the gameplay. That's part of the restriction. That's part of the fun. So I'm not suggesting for a minute that that needs to be a thing. I think just it'd be interesting to see if people do have that anxiety and hold on to points because they're not ready to give up the flexibility. I don't know. We'll see.
No, I agree. I think some people have actually said I've seen some people say like they're gonna kind of hold off points until they get their first mega rare and then just dump it in that
Oh,
one. But then again, wait, now I
oh.
just realized now it's a mega rare voucher, so that actually doesn't track anymore because you'll just pick your mega
Yeah.
rare. So
But
that's kind of
also,
cool.
like, how much harder is it going to be to get a mega rare in the first place if you're not going to spec into your mastery
True,
points?
true. All
You
right.
know?
You get carried by your friends that are
Yeah, I guess you
a
could
lot
get
more
carried.
quick on the gun to just
Yeah.
the six rangers. You know what I mean? They'll just carry you through
Yeah.
everything.
I really think that that is where my build is going to change the most. I think I'm going to go from melee to doing a tier 6 range build at some point. I just haven't decided how or when or what.
Oh yeah, I showed my friend the full Justiciar Twisted Bow, and he's like, "I'm
Oh,
playing
yeah.
that. I'm playing that one." Like
Yeah.
he just said, "Nope, I'm doing that," and I was like, "Okay, like yeah, you're
Yeah.
good. Have fun with it."
Full Justicia, Twisted Bow, or ZCB. If there is a special attack in Relic, you're sat there, you're tanky, you're hitting 110 Ruby Bolt specs. It's just so funny.
Yep.
Anyway, um, yeah. So this was really fun. I'm gonna have to dash now
Yeah.
because I've got work, unfortunately.
No,
But
yeah, I totally understand.
um, there is going to be a teaser soon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's going to be. I don't know if we're going to have time between now and the launch to do an episode 4.
I
So
I
I
don't even know.
guess,
It might literally be like we call each other up like next weekend or something while we're like
yeah,
fishing and just maybe we'll
yeah,
just do it live or something like because I'll probably be streaming or something if you don't mind
yeah,
and
yeah.
then
We'll do it live.
we'll have
I'll
like a
be
little
streaming as
chill
well,
little
so we'll do
convo.
it both.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll both do it.
That would be fun. I think that would
Um,
be fun, but this might be the last one. So there's
yeah,
there's not enough days left. I don't have you realized that it just like flew last like 10 days like flew
yeah,
by. It's kind of
massive.
crazy.
Crazy. Like I mean, I guess for probably for me and you, it's like a teaser comes out, you want to talk about it, you do a video. By the time you've done that, there's already new things to consider. You're doing that. So yeah, this like I haven't even had time to like crave leagues because we're constantly talking about it and it's like here and now and happening. So in a way, the reveals have really helped with like not wanting it to come sooner. But it's almost here now. And I guess for everyone out there, thank you for watching these. We've both enjoyed them. If we don't get time to do another episode, I'm sure we'll catch up during leagues. So yeah, I just hope everyone's enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. So,
Yeah, it's been
thank you
so
for
I think
spending
this
the
has been
time,
like the
man.
coolest thing this year is to have these convos and like shoot ideas and stuff. And like we always say we're gonna go quick and then it ends up running an hour and a half. So that's
Yeah. How long is
probably
this
not
one?
gonna change. So
God damn it. How long
yeah,
is
it's
this one?
I know it's like it's every time I'm like, oh like we'll go quick. We'll just one, two, three, four, and then just an hour flies by. So
Damn it. I'm going to have to absolutely wolf down my lunch before work. But anyway, thanks, man. Really appreciate the chat. Hope everyone's enjoyed. And see you soon. See you for
yep.
Leagues
Good luck
5.
with leagues. Good luck with all your plans too. I'm sure those are getting thrown
Thank
out
you,
pretty
man.
soon. So
Thank you.
we'll see.
And yeah, big shout out just before the video ends. Big shout out to the planning sheet that you and Gecko put
Oh,
together.
yep. Thank
I
you.
know a lot of people in my Discord and the official Discord have been using it and talking about how great a resource it is. So if you've not seen that already and you're watching this video on like my channel, I'll link that in the description. It's really good.
Yeah, that's it's really like we're just trying to help people out, get that community stuff going, give people
Mhm.
a quick glance and stuff. Just and again, I I contributed like helping out with some of the like things to know, but I mean Gecko has been doing all like the actual dev work and
We already
they're a
know,
god.
dude. You've just been
So
sat there cracking the whip. That's all. That's what you do. I know.
I just sit there, I put in my regions and I'm like, that looks pretty good. All right. Like, yeah, that's fine. So,
Nice. No, it's a really good resource. So thanks for putting that together. I'm sure everyone is really grateful.
yep. And we have like
Sweet.
mirrors now too, because that was crashing for like 3 days straight. There's so much traffic. So
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's
Well,
easy enough to like download your own copy, isn't it? So just do that if you're using it as well.
mhm. But that's
Okay.
pretty much it. Again, thanks you guys.
Yep.
Thank you guys all for hanging out, and good luck with leagues. See
Yeah.
ya.
Good luck, guys. See you all on the 27th.
Yep. We'll be there day one.
Day one.